you, Bad Mary, for that too sweet playing. Welcome back, all you four-color funny book aficionados. This is US Comics Cast, Chapter 3, HQ for all things comic book related. I am John Rivera, the CEO and co-founder of US Comics.
And that, of course, makes me your COO, the only 37-year-old you know who could botch saying he's 37 years old because it is a horrible reality. I used to be called Boom Boom, but I got served a cease and desist. I am your Charlie.
Just this past Valentine's Day hit that 3-7, and all of a sudden, all of his functions went. That happened shockingly quick, you old son of a bitch.
You are not wrong, but one thing is ever present. I will always be the younger brother. I will always be the Mando to your Boba Fett.
Rude.
You old man.
Rude, if not borderline untrue, but I will allow it because the bottom line is this. For everyone out there coming from a galaxy far, far away, unless your head is in the sand, you very much as well as know there have been big things going on in the interspaces, and that is one thing and one thing only. Star Trek 4 is happening. Chris Pine and company are back. Star Trek 4 is... No, wait, what? What's that? Oh, the producers in my ear saying that was indeed not going to be the topic of conversation, even though it very much as well is very true. Oh, I guess. All right. Well, I guess if that's the case, then we have to talk about the other star property, and that is none other than Book O Boba Fett. Charlie, I got to assume you're all caught up.
Am I all caught up? I just didn't sleep the night of the finale. I was like, come on, 3 a.m. EST.
That
midnight
actually,
West Coast is
that makes
bullshit.
a lot of sense.
I couldn't help myself. I was that excited.
Well, I mean,
I'm a brand new Star Wars fan. This is all new to me. I'm like, there's droids?
You are squeaky clean. But as much time as I have put in to the George Lucas toy box, I am really still also very much a rookie status compared to the most feared bounty hunter in all of Suffolk County. The guy who modded all of his action figures to fire rockets from their backs. The man who paid extra for Slave One vanity plates. It's the Black Series Mint in box, Justin Laserface Lambot. Oh yeah.
How we doing, guys? Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Listen
I
to
love that he's coming.
Luscious baritone. He is dialed in.
I love that he's coming from the Death Star. That makes my heart really happy.
He is coming to us live from the Death Star. I guess 3 at this point, because we're not counting Moonbase.
Is it Star Killer 2? What canon are you comfortably living in?
It's actually the Death Star's clone, which they established in book 712 of the Legends series, straight to book.
Nailed it.
You know what's really good about that Death Star, though? You can tell it's an evil clone because it has sharp teeth. Hey!
I was going to go with like the Michael Knight goatee, just giant space goatee on the Death Star floating in space.
It could be both.
It should be both at this point. So Justin Lambot as the resident Darth of the US Comics family, as excited as Charlie and I were. Charlie as a newbie, me as a little bit, not a little bit, certainly more well-established Star Wars fan. But that being said, both of our in Star Wars universe fandoms were not necessarily centered on Bullethead. So let me ask you, I mean, would you say, is it fair to say that Boba Fett was your number one guy?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
Even post show, I'll still stick to that.
All right, well, we shall get to your proverbial thumbs up and thumbs down. But let me ask you, and I think it's been very well established here on the show that I am a worshiper at the Han Solo altar. I indeed have made the Kessel Run in a much shorter distance of time, but it's gonna sound like I did it faster than other people. Don't worry about it. Talk to my Wookiee if you need some clarification. But I do want to start off any conversation about this series by clarifying what was it about Boba Fett, a character of very few words, a character who really was in maybe half a dozen scenes if you include when he shows up standing on the shelf with the rest of the bounty hunters, to the point where he does a Greg Louganis nosedive into the mouth of the Sarlacc. What was it about this very small relative window of time that this guy was able to capture your heart?
I get asked that question often. Growing up, it's always a little bit of a different answer, but I think the root of it all is kind of any mystery behind him. You could kind of use your imagination to go off a little bit, and as long as you kind of stuck to that same character theme, you'd end up in the right ballpark. Like even knowing what he did on the way to bring Han over to Jabba. There's a cartoon about that. There's comics about that. But back then, even late 90s, early 2000s, you didn't really have that stuff. But all you knew is like whatever he did, he wasn't messing around, and he got that shit done.
Yeah,
nobody stood in his way. It's
Justin, that sounds suspiciously like your favorite thing about Boba Fett was the adventures you made up with the action figure. You're like, it's nothing he did or said. It's the stuff I made him do and say.
Isn't
like
that
when
what
he's smashing
Favreau
Leia.
and Filoni are doing like right now? They had all of these
Touche.
like conversations in the back of their mind, all the games that they played with their like can we be honest? Terrible Star Wars figures when they came out. Just stiff-armed, no articulation. Yeah, Charlie, I do kind of agree with you. It sounds to me, if I may translate, it sounds to me like it was the thrill of the what if about Boba. Because look, nobody can deny whether you began as a Boba fan or hater, or you ended up there after this series, this spin-off series, or you're, somewhat ambivalent. I don't think anyone with the gift of sight can deny that Boba fucking looks cool. He's just a cool looking character. He even stood out by standing next to the likes of Bosk, singular. There weren't a bunch of his like Bosk and his baby Bosk Jr. One Bosk and he stood out. He stood out. There was something very, very special about him just aesthetically, and the fact that he did check off certain boxes in the story, the ones that mattered, Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, and not until his very inglorious exit stage right, very early in Return of the Jedi. But yeah, no, I can definitely agree with that you fill in a lot of those blanks. Like my mind goes to the games that I played and the stories that he popped up in. I said it here a while ago that, full disclosure, as a Han lover, I was obligated to be a Boba Fett fan. You know what I mean? It's almost like the analogy. The analogy that comes immediately to mind for me is, as a Met fan, you're almost obligated to be like, fuck the Yankees, fuck the pinstripes, even if like in the back of your mind you're like, they're all right. Mariano Rivera was pretty good. I don't want to jump in. I don't want to jump in with my. Where was your Boba status?
Well,
prior?
Again, as a newcomer to loving Star Wars, my experiences with Star Wars are always from interesting places. So my relationship with Boba Fett is not a positive one because of Shadow of the Empire, the Nintendo 64 classic, when Boba Fett is goddamn spamming me with this bullshit. I fought Boba Fett about 4 billion times. I hate Boba Fett more than I hate IG-88, and I fucking hate IG-88.
Strong words, bro.
The best thing fucking Boba Fett ever did was lend his design to the far fucking superior lion Mandalorian God himself, Mando Manding Rodriguez.
I know. Calling just at this point, calling Din Mandalorian is really still like calling Grogu Baby Yoda. It's not his
fun,
name. I
but
mean,
it's
granted, it is fun.
Boba Fett calls him Mandalorian, I think.
So Moe's Tavern calls him Mandalorian. So clearly, we know we've established where this episode is taking us. But the bottom line is this: if you say that you were ambivalent to Boba, that you did not have an opinion one way or the other, and you have caught this cat in action in any capacity, that would make you like the beardest wonder himself. That lion, no chin having summer bitch, George Toy Boy Lucas. Because the fact of the matter is that whether you like, love, or were disinterested in Boba, Han shot first, boys. Put up them shot classes. Clink, clink. Cheers. Knock it back.
Even his shot glass looks like it's from a starship.
Hold on. So
that one burned a little.
when I say that you hop into all those different types of, stories you run with Boba Fett, growing up, it's every time you catch him in something else, it solidifies everything that you thought about him in the past. So kind of like actually what Charlie just said, one of my earliest memories is Shadows of the Empire. You're Dash Rendar, the most badass motherfucker, the most knockoff Han that you can have without crossing the line. You run across IG, you run across Boba Fett, and you're like, oh man, he's such a tough motherfucker. He's shooting those, he's on top of it. He brings Slave 1 into the fight, really just solidifying that, he's that guy. A couple of years later, you come across, Battlefront 1 when you're into, early Xbox, PS2, even like Masters of, I think it's Terra Sky, it's called, on PS1. You don't fuck with Boba in that game. He's got every gadget he needs to take you down. I mean, dude doesn't say a word, but he's oozing with confidence. It's like almost like, how do you do that?
Yeah.
And every time you catch him in something else, it solidifies everything that you thought. Like, oh, he is that guy. He says the things I thought he'd say. But what really took it home for me and just made me want to chuck my TV out the window was when they brought him into season 2 of Mando, episode like 14 or something. The other actually Robert Rodriguez one. That is the Boba Fett that I've dreamt of for all 27 years on this earth. He comes out, he's backhanding stormtroopers. I mean, you see the knee rockets coming out. He's tossing the grenades. He's doing the Jango Fett spin with the blaster pistols. I mean, he's checking every box along the way. And not just for one, overpowered scene to set the tone. He's doing that for the next 4 episodes. I mean, he's dropping the classic Boba Fett one-liners. He's dropping the seismic charges that just give that sound that really shiver your timbers, all the way up to when he takes him right to the front door of the ship, chases in Bo-Katan and her little squad. Everything that he did in those 4 episodes is exactly what I wanted as a diehard Boba Fett fan. And then just to set a few weeks later, to see a drastic change to it kills me to say it's like an old sad sack. It's almost like what happened. And as you continue on, it kind of just gets worse. So that I think is my biggest grievance with that is, you fill in the puzzle pieces along the way as a kid. Then they come through and they tell you like, hey, you were dead on. And then they're like, but we're actually going to take that shit back. And now he's not that bad of a guy.
Charlie, there goes my substitute teacher analogy just coming to life. So yeah, Justin, in typical bounty hunter fashion, he shot first. I gotta give it to him. I think we've established where Justin's take after Book of Boba Fett as a standalone series. What did we get? 7 episodes total?
7 total, yep.
All right. So Charlie, as a somewhat of a neophyte to the Star Wars world, and by proxy, to Boba's experience, but you also had the benefit, I should say, of the more recent comic book outings of Boba, which again we spoke about here. They really, in my opinion, took somewhat of a. I will put it kindly. I'll say a blank slate character. Like, he's established because of his look and because of the line drops that they gave him. He's established this character, this guy is a badass among badasses, right? So the line that stuck out for me was, so here Vader lines up all these bounty hunters. He needs trustworthy characters who are like, do what I gotta do type personalities, well above and beyond the stormtroopers that can't run straight, bonk their heads when they're chasing people down the hallway. Like, he needs next level dudes. Amongst that group of badasses, Boba stands out. Like, to have everybody lined up like that. Imagine gym class when everybody's lined up and they're gonna play dodgeball, and the gym teacher's all jacked up, roided out, whistle hanging from his neck. He's like, all right, if somebody gets hit, you got to go out. If you catch the ball, somebody comes back in. First team with nobody left wins. And then he stops in front of, like, Garth. And he's like, Garth, don't throw at anybody's balls. The entire classroom would look at him and be like, fucking Garth is a badass. That motherfucker don't play. Fucking Boba is Garth in that situation. When Vader singled him out, was like, no disintegrations. I was like, all right, this is the fucking guy. This motherfucker's gonna be a problem. And as a Han Solo fan, I was immediately I have to root against this fucking cat. So I acknowledge, I'm the first one to say, fuck Boba prior. Fuck Boba, he didn't do shit. Sarlacc fucking knocked him down like an appetizer, this, that, and the other thing. But those comics did work. Those comics, the Legends books, they did work to further establish the fact, yeah, fucking Boba is a badass. Most recently, the battle of the bounty hunters, where you have all these intergalactic motherfuckers fighting over Han in Carbonite, and like Crimson Dawn gets involved, and you know, I kind of like pictured Han in Carbonite like Baby's Day Out. Just being knocked all over the screen. Like, here's a fucking girder that swings by. He lands on it. And you're thinking, he's not getting out of this, man. It's not going to happen. But even something as recent as that establishes Boba doesn't fucking play. Boba doesn't mess around. And I did have a similar experience where I was like, I had a level of expectation over what kind of a dude I was going to get. When the series first started for me, I kind of had that feeling of like, oh, okay, he's easing into this, right? Maybe we're going to get like an Unforgiven vibe. You guys are both familiar with the Clint Eastwood new classic, Unforgiven, yeah. So, fucking gunslinger back in the game after a very long time. He's still who he was, but he's not who he was right now. So it's going to take him a little getting into it. Like, that's what, honestly, before the series even started, and not even taking into consideration those few episodes of Mandalorian that he popped up in, I thought that would make the most sense. He was just regurgitated by the goddamn Sarlacc. So nobody walks out of that. What's up, Joker Stream? Nobody steps out of that like, skip to the do. I got a belly button. You do too. Like, he has to be affected. Charlie, did you have a level of expectation?
I come from a different place. Reading those comics, they're awesome. I've always been like, fuck Boba Fett. And that's part of the problem when you come from a place of like, Din is so the man, that I'm like, fuck the Skywalkers, fuck Rey,
fuck everybody,
even Han, like Mando's. Sorry. Well, John's off the show. It all boils down to I said I'm sorry. It all boils down for me telling interesting stories. And like Justin was saying, I thought Boba's reintroduction, was awesome. I felt like this show has 2 amazing episodes, and the rest are very good episodes. The 2 amazing episodes happen to be Mandalorian episodes, so I'm biased, but the 5 Boba Fett episodes are pretty good. There's a few problems with it. One, what fucking book? Where's the book? Was it the little joke at the end? Because that book was stupid. Don't name your series after that book. I have
It was
no
like
goddamn...
the Book of Mormon. There's no actual book.
Yeah.
Like fucking George Lucas is like, I'm going to stick my head into a hat and I'm going to read these golden plates and tell you what happened to Boba. And you jot it down.
The other thing I couldn't shake was like, the show never took a beat to explain why he's suddenly so underpowered. Like they, for some reason, nerfed everything about his fighting style. But also, as well as, why the fuck did he want to be in charge? Homeboy's talking about, these are my people. I'm like, you just fucking met them. But with all of those complaints, before I kick it to John, because he has something to say, but has a mouthful of sneak energy, the other thing that I think is going unmentioned, and I don't know if it's just because a lot of people have come to terms with what the prequels were, this show did an amazing job of getting me to appreciate the prequels. The robots you see are prequel robots a lot of the time. They introduce a new ship that's going to carry
robot glow-ups.
Correct. And the amount of work that they did in this series to be like, well, no, you kind of have to find things to appreciate about the prequels, because look what it lends itself to. I know some people have very strong opinions, and I'll let John take over again about specific moments, but overall, what a rehab job it did for 6 hours of film that I didn't really give a fuck about until Boba. So credit where credit's given.
All right, so just to rein us in a little bit, because we're touching a lot of stuff. Like little kids loose in the museum, like, oh, there's no glass. Fuck that's mommy. So let me ask you this, and we will go around the way counterclockwise as we're sitting here on the screen. So let's classify it as hated, tolerated, good, or great, right? I think that's a fair classification, right? You hated it, you tolerated it, it was good, it was great. Where would you put the series as a whole, Justin?
I mean, if I had to pick one, I would say I tolerated it as a Boba Fett series. Okay. I thought it was a great Star Wars series.
Fair. That's very fair. Charlie, what about you?
I love 2 episodes so much, I gotta bump it up to great.
The series, so the series as a whole, you think was great. So if you
add everything together, my average is great.
If you remove those 2, so what would those 2 Mandalorians score so overpowered that they carried everything else? If you took those 2 Mando exclusive episodes out, where would the other 4 be?
Good. It was good.
They'd be good. All right. So
yeah, definitely higher than tolerated.
So it's good.
It's a middle low.
For you, it's like good plus for you.
It's just good. With the Mandalorian episodes, good plus.
Good plus. Perfect. Yeah, I would say just good. I would give it like a solid. I would change my scoring to suit my own self and fuck you guys. I would give it a B, a standard B, no plus or minus attached to it.
Was it the fact that the Power Rangers showed up and had the slowest bike chase of all time? Is that what lost it for you?
We shall get to that. I think I'm going to put this out for you guys. I want you guys to, on your personal time, think about like the best moments and the worst moments for you. And we'll leave the middle stuff to the middle because that's where it belongs. I will say this. It cannot be looked over the fact that this is a character, Boba Fett, who design-wise, he was supposed to be, that visage was supposed to be the super fucking stormtroopers for Empire Strikes Back. Right? That's where we were. Star Wars, A New Hope was a huge hit. They knew they needed to come correct with a sequel. And George, fucking lying son of a bitch, was sweating bullets. He's like, oh, God, I got to make them related. I had them making out. Jesus Christ, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to need some Muppets. Somebody call Frank Oz. But that all being said, the design folks got to work. And he said, I need a super stormtrooper, something dope looking. So when we go about our business in the nerdy world and we come across those white Boba Fett's, what do they refer to them as,
Prototype?
Justin? The prototype armor?
Prototype armor, yeah.
They're out there. You see them out there. Those motherfuckers, they were supposed to be an army of quote-unquote Boba Fett's. And I'm not talking about the Clone Wars. I'm talking about Empire Strikes Back. This is a character whose first time on screen was as a cartoon in the Christmas and the Star Wars Christmas special, much and rightfully maligned.
Riding a brontosaurus.
I'll put this one out there to either Charlie or Justin. When's the first time anybody saw actual Boba in the flesh?
It was actually before Empire. It was in a parade in some buttfuck small town somewhere.
Damn straight, Justin with the win. So the town that George Lucas lived in had like this little goofy parade, and he wanted to infuse some Star Wars flavor. He's kind of a big deal now, so he had actual screen costumed people fucking just strolling down the street. Darth Vader, but also as well as Boba damn Fett was like la la la, and these kids are like, who the fuck is this guy over here now? Clearly he was not a stormtrooper. Clearly he was not a good guy, because he was side arm in arm with Vader, like they were off to see the wizard, just skipping to their loot. So yes indeed. So again, the first time anyone caught him in the flesh was in a parade. Even when we see him for the first time in Empire, he's amongst other bounty hunters. So no one can deny Star Wars has gotten a lot of mileage. I think Boba Fett is like a Civic that got 500,000 miles and like has left the warranty well behind it. They got a lot of mileage out of him, man. But yeah, I would give it a solid B. So my filler, put aside.
You've
we'll go
changed
back to
the scoring to the point where now it's a B.
You know, we established that. So Justin, let me ask you this question. So, with your score being what it is, what one moment would stand out for you where you were smiling into your ear? We're like, yes, this is what I'm here for. This is where my monthly Disney dollar is spent.
Probably I would say episode 4. I think when he, finally got his ship. Instant revenge on the Sarlacc, instant revenge on the speeder bike gang. I was like, all right, maybe they just really tried to go somewhere 1 through 3. He wasn't vibing with it, so they're gonna, kind of revert him back to a little bit more of a badass than he was, only to then just vanish from his show for almost the remainder of the entire series. But I mean, that episode, it had its ups and downs. But when he's chasing the speeder bike gang, I mean, that's Boba Fett. When he's, facing down into the Sarlacc pit, that's Boba Fett. He doesn't care. He wants the revenge on that thing.
That was like the first time that I saw Fennec and like, oh shit, this motherfucker's gonna get me killed, son of a bitch.
And
she's
like, that's
never
Boba
afraid
Fett.
of anything, and she was sitting back like, oh fuck.
Yeah, but that's him. Like he'll do what he needs to do to get that job done. And in that moment, the job was kill that thing.
Hell yeah.
So he did what he had to do. So I had high hopes at that moment that he was coming back to be the Boba Fett that we
maybe that would
know
be
and
his
love.
Hulk out moment. He's like,
Yeah.
All right, that's good. That's good like that. Charlie, what about you?
When motherfucker season finale, motherfucker shows up on Trogdor the Rancor, tearing up the fucking village. That shit was awesome. If you want Charlie to buy your fucking merch, show up riding a fucking. He came in like he took suave lessons.
He was like,
from my boy. He was ready to go. That shit was awesome. You show up on a monster riding that motherfucker. The show sets it up. And dumbass Charlie is like, I guess in season 2 we'll see him with the baby. Oh no, right now? Just throwing fucking speeders and shit? Fuck yes.
Hey, let me ask a toy question, Justin. Do you happen to know? Do they make a Rancor, a Black Series Rancor?
A Black Series, I don't know, but Target has one from Return of the Jedi. I have it. It's Luke and like a giant bone, and a pretty sizable Rancor comes
Pretty
with
good
it.
rank.
Yeah, it's a Target exclusive though.
Pretty good articulation, respectable.
They were gonna
he's
do
in his
one.
box, so I don't know.
They tried to crowdfund one.
He's like, I'm an adult. I don't open up my toys, idiot.
I'm a box guy. Yeah, it's
They tried to do a crowdfunding one through HasLab, and it didn't take.
Oh wow!
Really?
It was going to be
Recently?
massive. I think it was for the 6-inch. Yeah, yeah.
Surprising.
The other problem was it was like going against the proton pack.
Recently,
So I guess
as
people
in like the finale had already aired.
No, like maybe a month before.
I would bet you if they relaunch that endeavor now, it would probably happen.
I just want Boba Fett with a cowboy hat, like woo. That's the fucking I want. Little saddle.
I very much enjoyed his team fighting. I really did, for the main reason that even in the extended universe endeavors of his, with one exception, his team up with Black Sandy in the fucking comics was the stuff of legends. To a more direct, like mirror image, evil universe version of Han and Chewie, there never was. And I'm including Thundar the Barbarian. Like, there was never a more clear Michael Knight evil version. I like Black Sandy even had the goatee. Like, the whole thing was going on. I really wanted to see them like kind of pair up even more than Fennec. Justin and I, we had a little bit of a teaser to this conversation where...
How dare you?
I'm sorry, man. I got to get out. The brother's got to sow the seeds. Like what we were talking about was, okay, well, if this is kind of who Boba is now, which in his defense, we didn't really know him. We just thought we knew him. He was just a fucking badass, a man of few words. And all of a sudden, when he did have words to say, they were like, hey man, peace, love, and happiness. Like he fucking turned into Ringo Starr all of a sudden. But I can only assume that, look, you start getting digested like Thanksgiving dinner, that can affect a brother.
It's actually kind of insane how like grumpy he was without his armor. Then he got his armor and he's like ratata, ratata, ratata,
like a douchebag cat that's like mean to everybody, but like there's just one person in the household is like no matter what the fuck the person says. I can see that. But yeah, no, like when he was throwing down in like that group situation, I would have loved to see his like the pairing of him and Black Sandy do it up, because Mando fights Solo dope. Din is dope fighting Solo, and he's not even really Solo because he's got the little magic fucking frog guy behind him to bail him out when need be. But I love, like, truly I have never seen the knee rockets be more tactically used appropriately than in that fucking fight. He was
that
wrecking
pose.
Cats.
Hasaizen.
Honestly, also to the point where like, yeah, and this character, blah, 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 and he's got knee rockets. Time out. Knee rockets? The fuck are you talking about? But he used them like a champ. So let's keep on going around the clock. So Justin, I know it's gonna be tough, but give me one particular individual moment where you're like, fuck this show.
My biggest grievances are with Boba Fett as a character himself. I can get behind the multicolored teens. I can get behind all that stuff. I understand Disney's got a hand in it. They're going to do what they're going to do. Yeah, and like at this point, I've accepted it. You know, they've crossed a few lines in the past, but for the most part, I don't hate him. It's just every decision he made as a character, and it's almost like they acknowledge it in the show because
They did.
Fennec looks
totally
at him
did.
like constantly, like, "What are you doing?" You know, why would you
Pussy,
say
what are
that?
you
What's
doing?
this?
What are you talking about?
The biggest loser from Office Space just bitched you out like episode 2 over here, and you not only like reconstruct his business plan, you then recruit like a bunch of teens in the process, and there's none of that screams Boba Fett to me. Even in episode 1 or the end of episode 2, season 2 of Mando, you know, why is he even so set on taking over Jabba's palace? I mean, Tatooine obviously is huge in the Star Wars world, but like, you didn't grow up there. He's from Camino, the complete opposite of what that desert planet's like. There's really no need for him to like want that so bad. Kind of like Charlie said, you know, like, what do you even care if these are your people? Like, they're not at all.
It's
None
a
of them
big
clearly
fucking
respect you.
galaxy. Like, why?
What are you doing here in the first place?
And you know what? You raised a very valid, just storytelling point. Why Tatooine?
Why?
Like,
Star Wars has a Tatooine problem. Don't, you know, get me wrong. We find
they
60%
really
of canon stories there.
It's
You
unbelievable.
know, okay, that's fine. But like,
No, I agree
doing?
with that completely. Charlie, what was your least favorite Sandy bit? Dude, it's like we all turned into Anakin. We're like, fuck sand. I never want to see that shit again.
I have no problem with Tatooine, but why is he gonna die for it? You know?
I mean, come on. Yeah, I'm with you. It's a Luke fucking situation, not a Boba situation. Charlie, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I genuinely very much disliked the way that they told the story. I'm a little bit over
Which story? Because they kind of
I'll clarify.
Like
I don't like how they disjointed the stories. Like, if the first 3 episodes were Boba and the Sand People, like him going on a fucking acid trip and seeing visions and shit, I thought all that was dope. I know in our chat a few people didn't love the Sand People stuff. I just wish they told it in a straight timeline.
First of all, that's our word. You
Sorry,
fucking call him Tusken Raider, you racist
the Tusken
piece of
Raider
shit.
story. I prefer, unless there's a reason for it,
Linear.
I much prefer just tell me the story in a linear path, and hopefully it'll be interesting
Like
enough.
a simpleton.
Now, how dare you? I personally don't like how many people feel the need for that, to complicate a storytelling process by being like, see, remember last episode he had the droids put him in robes, now his Tusken Raider peeps, that's how he be like, I would have still fucking remembered,
Right, but
if
that's
that was
Favreau.
2 episodes
So,
apart.
Like, Favreau wrote this story,
Sure.
and he would have structured it in that way. Like, okay,
Sure, I
first
didn't
you
love-
find out
but-
this, first you find out that.
Sure. And I love Jon Favreau, and I'll never tell him he did anything wrong to his face. But in the privacy of this podcast that we put out to the world,
I'm sending it
I
to him.
fucking
I'm
thought it
sending
was.
to him direct.
I thought it was a bad idea to just muddle the
Favreau,
storytelling.
I love you, and if Tom Hanks is not gonna be the multiverse Iron Man, I'm more than willing to shave my facial hair into any shape that you see fit. Yeah, fuck Charlie. I disagree completely. I'm sorry, Charlie. What were you saying? Go ahead.
No, that was my whole point. But also, I would just like to point out, John, just because your pitch to be evil Doctor Strange and Doctor Strange 2 didn't work out, doesn't mean you have to shave the goatee.
I can see
You
that.
can keep it. You can keep it.
Honestly, if they just make me yet another Sherlock Holmes, eventually I'll end up in the Marvel fucking universe somewhere.
That's a fact. What about
Somehow.
you, John? What was the main thing you bumped into? Don't say the Power Rangers.
I agree with. I do agree with both of you. Like, I could have easily picked apart each episode and be like, no, don't like this. No, that was a bad choice. Which, let's be honest, only because of our admitted love of the content are we entitled to be like, yes, no. Because none of us are filmmakers. None of us collect checks from Disney. If anything, we fucking write checks to Disney. So, but that being said, like, putting our hubris aside and our false modesty aside, as if we couldn't do it better. Honestly, I feel like collectively we probably could have. The one thing that bugged me probably more than anything else, and I agree with both of your shit-ons, was the gloss over of the Tusken experience. Now, we've talked about several times why. Why did he go from this fucking alpha, shoot first, disintegrate first, ask questions later character, like do whatever the fuck needs to get done to accomplish this goal, which is handed to him on a little disc, to all of a sudden being like, these are my people. Oh, I'm going to self-sacrifice. I'm willing to risk every damn thing under the sun for people. Ostensibly, again, somebody in chat said it best. People I don't know, I think Joker said it. People I don't even know. Like, he was talking about, like, my people. Like, the fucking clones were your people. I don't see you running around trying to round them up.
Yeah, and the Raiders did nothing for you.
Now,
at
that
all.
being said,
I wouldn't say the Raiders didn't do anything.
To a degree, but
they kept them alive for slave labor. It's not like they were.
And you know what? They after he whooped some ass, they did say, okay, this is how we do this. This is how we do that. Now, we always have this conversation when somebody's like, well, I didn't, because usually they do that walking out of a theater of a movie that we're walking into, and like, man, I can't believe the shark stood up and took out a machine gun and killed everybody. Like, you fucking asshole! I didn't see the movie yet, so I will play by my own rules, because usually what I'll say to those people is, "Fuck you, dick. How would you do it better? This is how I would have done it better." Across the entire show, again, 7 episodes we got, and we're all on the same page that at least 2 full episodes were just Din, and what was going on with fucking Grogu, and literally the greatest CGI face work that I have ever seen. That Luke, if someone didn't know Mark Hamill, if someone didn't know that he was 207 years old right now, and in fact actually Joker, I don't think they wouldn't have known. I honestly believe that. I would put money that someone who doesn't know the circumstances did not know that was just not a regular actor running around with a fucking Kermit the Frog Muppet on his back. But I digress. What I would have done with that Tusken situation is, first and foremost, the entire Sarlacc escape was too easy.
Agreed.
It was too easy. We've been worried. We've been thinking about how he's gotten. How long? It's 25 years, 30 years.
I know.
Like when he went into that so long ago. Fucking Patton Oswalt had a way more interesting version of how Boba escaped from the maw, the gaping maw of the Sarlacc than we got from this show. But I would have extended the escape process, right? I would have made it more. And you know what, Charlie, to speak to your, like, well, keep it singular. You know what? I for that particular part of it, I wouldn't have. I would have had this poor son of a bitch only being really kept alive to the lesser extent of damage that he received, just like his little facial work in the bacta tank, because of his armor, whereas the stormtroopers fucked from the get-go that went in there. While he was in there, that's when I would have had his memories flashing in the bacta tank.
That's not bad.
I would
Agreed.
have done it with him in the Sarlacc, like, oh fuck, my entire life, my clone father wanted me to go out and fucking own the universe, and I ended up just working for other people's whims, and putting their needs first, and this, that, and the other thing. That if you wanted to give Boba Fett an existential crisis, you fucking do it when he is in the digestive tract of a goddamn monster that lives in a hole in the desert. So I would have had a far longer period of time. Maybe the actual escape, yeah, maybe I would have incorporated, use the stormtrooper's oxygen to make his flame even that much more powerful. Like, you can justify it. There's plenty of writers lying around that could have written an escape that would have been tits. But that's why I would have had him make, like, somewhat of that. Where did that click come from? Right there. So not even all of it. I would have had 72% of the Boba Fett change of attitude happen because he's like, my life ended me up in a stomach of a monster. This is fucked up. like the
I
credits.
like that. I like that a lot.
Not worth it, man. Think about it. He was there from the old Republic through the Empire to now that entire shit. Fuck. What was the point? Like, we all have those moments. Why have I done this with my life? Charlie's like, right now when I'm podcasting.
I fucking work for the Empire too. It's not fucking what they promised. There are no cookies.
Charlie has to report to the Emperor right after this show. So that's where I would have put that work in for the flashbacks and stuff. Fuck it, you didn't even need to do any new filming. I mean, you could have done similar scenes that we're familiar with from the other
shithead
movies,
fucking
or like film
Planet.
little tiny snippets from the shows or from the books rather, and the comics that have been fucking so awesome. Like little moments, like flashback, whatever. But now he gets out of the Sarlacc, and he's like, well, fuck it, at least whoever the Jabba's remnants or Imperial remnants, somebody's gonna come scoop me up, right? Fuck them. I am all alone? Fuck this. And that would have completely put him over to saying, fuck this. Now it's gonna be Team Boba all the time, right? So that's now his existential crisis. This is why we get a different Boba than we think we were gonna get. But he's still in the middle of the goddamn desert. The little furry, now we know furry Jawas come along, they take his armor, see you later. They don't even drag him into the crawler. What pieces of shit. Fuck Jawas.
No tee.
The fucking Raiders
Classic Jawa.
were cool though. So, you know, why were the Raiders his people? Yeah, they put him for slave labor. They were going to get what they were going to get out of him. But they didn't leave him there. The Jawas just left him there. They could have maybe sold him for something. The fucking Raiders, they at least scooped him up, and he still had to go through what he had to go through. So I understand where they're coming from. He's a stranger. He's a threat. But this is what I would have done also. You know how we ended up with Boba in that jet black fucking sand robes and stuff like that, and the armor off of it? That looked awesome. That, I think, was one of those circumstances where, like, here's the visual first. Let's justify the visual, because it looks awesome. Right? So they say, hey, John, justify this visual. Okay. Take this to the Last Samurai world. Take this to Tarzan, King of the Jungle. Take this to any of those stories that are out there where, like, the white savior comes in, even though he's fucking New Zealander, I think.
He's a clone, John.
Stupid. You take this outsider or Dances with Wolves. You take an outsider who's accepted into a tribal people, and he gets indoctrinated in their ways. Let me ask you a question, guys. Thinking back to A New Hope and moving forward, what color were the Tusken Raiders' robes?
Sandy, I thought? Khaki?
Sandy.
Like a tan?
Brown at best. Every once in a while, some browns. Let me ask you a question. If you leave a black piece of clothing out in the sun for too long, even if it's up on the back deck of your car and the sun is beating on it, what happens to that black t-shirt?
Fades
like a motherfucker, right? And if you left it long enough, would it be like tan color, maybe dark brown? Excuse me, if I'm not mistaken, if you have a Tusken Raider who comes of age, who has now been trained in those Tusken Raider doings, then they get black fucking robes, and then they go about doing their business in the fucking sand. After years and years of being the sun beating down on them, would not those black robes turn sandy, light colored, which is how we end up seeing them for the first time in the New
love
Hope?
how romantic you are with you.
That's the answer. Yes. So, if you have a Tusken Raider who's just elevated, who just graduated from curved stick fighting school, that motherfucker's robes are black. Then if you go send him off to go get some coconut water, and he comes back and all the entire fucking village is killed, now you have a dude just wearing black robes, which is how we find Boba. To me, I'm sorry, that makes a hell of a lot more sense story-wise. These are the only people in the world who gave two fucks about him enough to pull him out of the sand. bare ass butt naked, no armor having, nothing to contribute, nothing to give them except his fucking little bit of moisture. And by the way, Dune needs to sue these motherfuckers. Spice, really? Spice? Anyways,
And
that's
pods
how,
of water an
holy
inch below
shit.
the surface. What the hell
That's
is that about?
that's the those are the changes that right off the top I would have made, and everything else would have followed suit, because now you have a justification for why he's like, the Tusken Raiders were my peeps. They saved me. I couldn't do shit for them. That's literally, I mean, Ellis made the joke, but that is the Batman moment. I couldn't save my parents, but you know what? I can save strangers by being something else.
Also,
And that's why he would adopt the fucking villagers. That's why he would say the crime syndicates are fucking these villagers over. You know what? Nah, I'm gonna step up. I'm gonna be the man that I have, the man that's gonna change the circumstances. Now you have a justification for the show. Now it makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, coming out of our Facebook chat, they even said by becoming an honorary Tusken, he became bound by the sand of Tatooine. That's why the Tatooine people were his people. I didn't get that from the fucking show at all.
I didn't
because the show didn't do a great job of even letting me know how long he was with the Tuskens.
He should
Was
have.
that a month? Was that 3 years?
They should have clarified that he was with them longer than he was, and I would say
long enough to
with them
change.
at the level of robe wearing, because you could have given him like jet black robes if you're doing the John version, and then like maybe 2 shades down he went from tactical black to like midnight ebony, and you're like, oh, it's been maybe a year or two, because again we have the luxury of the timeline. We know the established timeline. We know when fucking Din starts doing what he's doing, so we know in essence we had what, 9 years to say this is when this happened, from the fall of from whatever, the Battle of Yavin to fucking Din showing up. We know that window of time. So Justin, we'll kick it back around to you. So, you now have the writer's pen. Hey, we know you're a huge Boba fan. We're gonna give him his own time to shine. How would you have handled that?
I mean,
And we also have the pleasant surprise of Din being now as popular as he is. A lot of people were saying, the first thing people were saying was he's the new Boba Fett.
yeah,
So,
absolutely.
To on the one hand, that's almost an interesting story too. Like, what's the old Boba Fett gonna think about the new fucking Boba Fett, the new badass, the new, because they're talking about him. He did this, he did that. He fucking repped all these troopers, blah blah blah. Now Din's got a rep. So yeah, so I mean, if you made your perfect Boba series, what would it have looked like? Because obviously this wasn't it.
I mean, if they wanted to go with that type of story, like you said, we could have made a couple small changes along the way, even visually. Him breaking out of the Sarlacc pit, I mean, that's a 30-year-old question. Again, left to imagination and, all that crap, only to have him, do a nice little jab, little flamethrower. You don't worry about it. He's a half a mile down, popping out of the sand. Up until episode 4, I'm like, they're going to revisit that. They're going to show how we at least got from here to there, or anything along those lines. Like I have on my shelf here since I've been a kid is Boba Fett jetpacking out of the Sarlacc pit in the most badass way. I mean, he's got, just look at it. Like
That's
even something
dynamite.
relatively
Just
close to
that
that.
visual would have automatically been better than what
Shot
we
the
got.
whole episode through the roof. So if you really wanted to take a drastic turn in his, character, visuals like that would have at least helped along the way. At the end of every episode, I mean, they're talking about there's a war coming. There's a war coming. They said that 6 times for 6 consecutive episodes. And when it came, I was a little underwhelmed by it.
It was a fracas.
You got great scenes. You got Boba and Din back to back. Like that stuff's amazing. All of it. Like, some of it was amazing, but at the end of it, it kind of felt a little Last Jedi-y, and in terms of that slow chase where the Power Ranger teens and all the people from Cobb Vanth, Freetown, are all hanging out behind a head-high wall for 25 minutes while they're just getting pounded by blasters from the new droidicas and whatever they're called now, spider droids, and the Pike Syndicate lighting them up, and they're totally fine behind head-high cover long enough to make a plan, which is just get a little bit higher. Classic Star Wars, you have the high ground, and don't worry about it. You'll take it from there.
Fennec Shand was like, have none of you guys watched the fucking prequels?
Seriously.
None of you? Fucking
But
millennials.
to me, it just takes away from it. You know, they're talking about this war, this whole big thing, and you're hiding behind a wall for 15 straight minutes, just getting lit up by the enemies, and they're not making any type of advancement towards you. They're just giving you the time that you need to, figure it out. Little things like that just kind of get to you, and the more you watch it, the more you notice. I mean, I won't even comment on like that one cyborg teen spin that he does. He's already facing the enemy. Let me just crouch spin.
Tactical spin. It's a tactical spin.
It's not like he faced the other way at the end, or tried to get somebody on the side. Like you were looking straight, you spun, and you.
What was with the tech nerd who was basically wearing a tie and a hoodie? What was that
they
visual?
Just felt sloppy.
That looked like the guy who wasn't paying attention to the cosplay thread on the phone. And it's like, oh, we're gonna show up like we're gonna be tech guys and this and the other thing. Think like the Borg maybe, and then he shows up and he's just like, wearing his fucking hoodie from lacrosse and he's got a tie on because it's game day. It was such a dumb costume, and it stuck out like a heart. It was an orange hoodie, like nobody in ever has worn anything remotely like that. And now I did have to pause the fucking playback to be like, is this guy wearing a tie? Now, granted, he wasn't. It was just like a colored black bar that just ran down the front of his shirt. But goddamn, if it didn't look like a fucking a slim fit tie to me, I was pissed.
Yeah.
I hated them so bad. The fact that the fucking Gamoran guards both fucking died like they were in the first 5 minutes of 300, and these fucking hacker idiots made it through to the end. I was furious. Charlie, save the show. How would you have handled the new saga, the next chapter, as it were?
So for me, the big misstep of the show was not taking advantage of what they did with the 2 Din episodes. If I'm in charge of Book of Boba Fett, other than struggling to find a new title or having a prominent book, each episode for me would have followed one of the character or characters that were leading to this big finale, where they have this big fucking showdown. So my ticking clock is like, shit's going down. But I'm going to have an episode where we see the mods. I love that we see Boba Fett saved his number 2 by bringing her to a mod fucking house where, like, everyone's getting a Luke hand, and some of them didn't get their shit cut off. I would have had an entire episode built.
And just to put a pin in that really quickly, the whole point of those mods were that they weren't necessarily like life-saving when they happened. So they were in essence elective surgery, right? They were looking for like just advantages.
It's a
to
mix.
Get through this sandy world that they live
in.
in.
The read I got was that it's a mix. Some get it because they have to, and then it's like a tattoo. You get some more. So homegirl, in my head, the girl may have lost her arm, got the fucking arm, and then was like, yo, who are these other weirdos? And then started rolling with them, and maybe she got an ankle now too.
Another question from the peanut gallery. Why were the mods not able to get cybernetic acting ability? Like, didn't they plug something? Like, they do it in the Matrix. If the Matrix could teach you how to fucking fly a Huey helicopter, they could have at least given them, like, acting 101. They were terrible. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No worries. But again, we have this whole idea that there's a guy selling water in Tatooine. He's fucking running up the prices because he's a scumbag. That could have been an episode. And maybe you bookend it with Boba. The ending could be the same. But have that episode be about the fucking mods. Like, let me learn something about them.
You live in a desert world, not having access to affordable water seems like a pretty reasonable fucking problem to have.
Yeah.
Like, that should be, I mean, fucking Lars and what's-her-face, were Luke's aunt and uncle, Owen and Beru.
Aunt Beru.
They were moisture farmers, which makes perfect sense if you live in a fucking desert, which once was an ocean planet, but notwithstanding. Yeah, that's more.
But yeah, fair. So for me, episode 1 is Boba versus the Sarlacc, and maybe we introduce the Tuskens. Episode 2, I do the whole fucking Tuscan story, including him fucking fucking up that gang that got framed. My 3rd episode, it's me, so I'm going to make that my first Din episode. My 4th episode is about the mods. My 5th episode is about Cobb Vanth. Catch up with fucking Freetown. We do another Din episode. We do a Black Chrysanth episode showing him be a badass. And then we're at the fucking finale. Boom, boom, boom. This is how Boba got his crew. We know who they're rolling against because those bad motherfuckers roll through the rest of the series.
It should have been a perennial crew build. Like every episode,
Agreed.
you should have
Take
added
that shit for the next season.
And
like,
then
now playing shortstop for the Boba Fett All Stars.
What's the name of like not roster, but like, you know, putting together the crew he needed after. So we rediscover Boba, the shit he goes through with the Tuskens again. Episode 1, episode 2, you do that same Tusken scene, but you take that whole episode. He's fucking a family. He's logged in. We could use John's fucking robe thing. The rest of it
don't
is
steal
like
my rope thing, man. That's patent
I'm saying if we're working in conjunction. But by the time you get to episode 3, when you start taking these big departures and get introduced to characters, well, you have 30 to 60 minutes to make me like the characters, to tell me where they're at, like
which characters?
Din. Again, each episode for me is key members of the crew.
So in other words, the same formula per each episode, but just plug in a different ingredients. That's fair. Let me ask you this, guys, question, because this thought occurred to me as it was happening. Actually, that's not true. So I watched the first 5 episodes, let's say, on a weekly basis. And then I had to catch up 2 episodes before the finale. And the finale I watched like 2 days after you guys, so I was praying that you guys were good friends, and you were. But I had the thought, even on that 2-episode catch-up, this show, more than any other on Disney Plus that we've gotten, would have benefited greatly from a episode dump. Because if this show had been on Netflix or Amazon even, we could have got 7 episodes. You could have gotten all 7 episodes in once. And then a lot of the anxiety of like, where the fuck are they taking us in this show? Would have, at least you would be like, all right, I don't love necessarily that Boba has kind of become the old man on the porch, but also as well as woke, because at least there was something good, there was something tasty, right? Like those would have been the vegetables, but there was something tasty in every episode. There was at least something like, but what about this? That's at least how I felt. There were no episodes that were entirely like unsalvageable, even the ones in particular with that were mod heavy, which I hated. I'll put it out. The thing that I hated the absolute most was anytime there was a mod on screen, a mod referenced, something that rhymed with mod. I fucking hated it. I hated it. So, I mean, Justin, we'll take it back to you. Do you feel that you would have had a better experience personally if you got all the episodes at once, 7 episodes that you could have binged at once, or maybe broken it up over a weekend?
Yeah, I'm always a big believer in that, though. I think especially stories like these, they're meant to kind of be consumed in, 1, maybe 2 sittings. Because like you said, sometimes they sprinkle in just a little bit in each episode, enough to keep you going, but not enough to make you wait 7 more days for the next one.
Yeah. That window, that week-long window to bitch really started to sit in, because by the time that we got to the Din episodes, I was like, I don't like this.
Yeah, and right before you got to Din, they finally gave you some redemption, towards a step towards his badassery, only to then kick him out until finale.
The best version of Boba that we got, in this series at least, I think, happened after the Din episodes. Like, that was at least fucking all pure action-packed. Charlie, same question. Would you have preferred it as a dump, or
no?
did you want the slow burn?
I have had the last 7 weeks, I needed something to look forward to. And my connections...
You're talking about it like esoterically.
Sure.
I mean, specifically for this show,
no, yeah,
everything else being perfect.
I
do you think
this...
it would have benefited it, you?
I don't. I think it would have been a lot more disposable. And I don't think I would have. I certainly don't think I would have watched each episode twice. I prefer making me wait a little bit
For this show specifically, I know
for this show specifically.
I know in general that that's your rule. All right, that's fair. Fuck me then.
I'm not that way with Mando for whatever reason. Mando, I would watch 12 hours straight. I'd just be like,
I mean, you would have to almost have to. Okay, that's fair. That's fair. Anything that you guys walked away from, at least as far as the storylines that we got. So I mean, one of the things that we haven't talked about yet, which I'm pretty sure, and I saw a couple of like visual reworkings, which is just like, all right, you're not gonna get a job like the fucking new CGI that Luke got. But did you guys have anything negative to say about Cad Bane when he showed up?
no.
Austin, we'll start with you.
I didn't at all. As far I was thrilled. It was actually spoiled for me, unfortunately, on Facebook at 6:45 a.m. Eastern time.
Ugh.
My mistake. Yeah, so I knew he was coming before I saw the episode, but visually, I was stunned. I was over the top. I think you mentioned it too the other day when we were chatting about the size of the hat and things like that. I'm like, listen, if I sat there and I picked apart, I'll find something with everything. Don't get me wrong. I'm that guy. I'm never actually happy. No matter what you throw at me, so I'll find something. But I really had no complaints. I wasn't gonna sit there and talk shit about Cad Bane or anything like that. I was thrilled to see him. I think he looked great. I'm reading on Facebook. People are mad about the color of the skin. One shade off, two shades off. He's in the sun, so it should be lighter. Dark. Relax. I'm
He's
happy
70. Let him have whatever color skin he wants.
Yeah, I had no problem with Cad
God
Bane.
damn it.
The only thing I had an actual problem with was kind of the lack of Slave One, especially because you had to go out of your way to say Fire Spray. And I get that you're not technically renaming Slave One to Fire Spray. It's the model, like a Corellian cruise, however you want to word it.
Did they ever call it Slave One though?
I don't think they've ever actually said the word Slave One in Star Wars.
So that bitch is just in a manual somewhere. Nah.
It's
But
just
not
not
in
enough
the manual, like it's
product.
his license plates.
It is though. I don't think it's ever actually been said in the Star Wars universe, the word Slave One. I could be wrong though. I'm not sure. But to go out of your way to say the word Fire Spray, if it's true that you've never actually spoken the word Slave One, the fact that you've now said the word Fire Spray is almost like a spit in the face.
Yeah, no, it was a very like it was.
Did you look that up? Has it been
like
said?
A wink to the audience of like, see what we're not calling it.
Yeah, it's insane. And also that ship is entirely
has been
remote
known
control.
as a Slave One for years. The name was only ever used in a Star Wars movie or TV show on 2 occasions in the Clone Wars TV show, and originated in supplementary material such as comics and guidebooks. Well, then I got news for you. Then it is canon.
Then it
is
canon.
what?
Yeah.
Especially in Clone Wars, I'll take.
Here's the thing. Boba Fett, at least on film, has always rolled solo when he's doing his Boba Fett shit. So, again, if we're talking about like when he's paired up with fucking Black Sandy, or whatever the case might be, if he's just, who's he gonna call Slave One to? Himself? Fuck, where did I park Slave One? Cuckoo, cuckoo, boop, boop.
Sure.
Oh, there it is over there. So that does make sense to me. To refer to it as like it's make. I mean, we have cousins like that, so I guess it's like somewhat forgivable.
He just didn't have to say it. Like I think the exact line was, "Help me get my ship, my fire spray," or like the fire spray. Like there was no need for a comma there. Help me get my ship. Period. Like wrap it up.
Done.
Get on to the next. Scene.
I did like that scene though. I did like that scene, like the reacquisition.
It was great, but that line, it just felt like a unnecessary, like real quick.
I'm really sorry, guys. I completely tuned out for the last 2 minutes because John said that he rolled solo, and I imagined that the little hover pads just like died, and he's just in the sand, like flipping over, fucking solo to the ship, like cock, pocket, like, nothing ever works.
Fucking Christ, Solo, what did you eat today, son of a bitch?
I do love, shout out to John from the Facebook chat. He forgives any slight visual changes in return for using the original voice actor whenever possible.
Agreed.
That is fucking great to see.
They have done an amazing job
100%.
in using the voice actors in real life on the show. They've done it
Whenever they
multiple times already. And
Do
I think
you
that's
guys-
just well. It's not like
Do
Bender
you guys
fucking
think-
Bending Rodriguez.
Do you guys think our blue friend is dead? He had that little red flashy light on his chest.
I don't think he's dead, but it's kind of like a hit and miss because the next show that could come out, I mean, or whatever comes out next, could be before the Book of Boba Fett. So it could be one of those where he might actually be dead now, but this is prior to that.
Then, so the
I think
next
we'll be
show
seeing
that we're
more.
getting,
I'll put it like that.
I think confirmed. We know that we're getting in May, not on May 4th.
I know.
But we're
25th.
getting Obi-Wan's standalone show.
Hello there.
Yes, indeed. So I do not think that he's dead. We know for a fact that Cobb Vanth is not dead. We're gonna end up with a
Very happy to
modded-
see that.
modded
Very happy
version
to
of
see
him.
that. Yeah.
I hope he looks like a Corvette. Give him some shiny parts.
I
As
hope he ends
opposed
up
to a
looking like
weird,
Terminator,
like Velcro flap.
Yeah, it's a little weird for her. But whatever works.
That
I
was
mean,
odd.
being a modder
I mean,
ain't easy.
It keeps her on her feet, and the bottom line is she carried most of the water for fucking Boba's bullshit actions.
Yeah.
What was the other thing I wanted to mention? Charlie, do you have any questions for
I
our
think
resident expert?
I think my big question was because this was the weird feeling I got at the end of Book of Boba. And this very much comes from a place of I wasn't in love with the character before. He didn't hold a special place in my heart. I got someone who looks similar, but he's shiny and has a Grogu. One thing I thought told me a lot about the series as a whole was that when I was done with it, I didn't go like, "Oh, I can't wait for season 2."
Well, that's because they didn't leave off with like the tease of like season 2 was about Cobb Vanth, and that's
but
I think it speaks to the general disservice of that the series did. Like the coolest shit about the Boba Fett series was not about Boba.
That was about everybody and everything
about everybody else. Now I have a very easy fix for that.
Tell me now.
What if this series had been Mandalorian season 3 ... Book of Boba Fett?
Would have been all about it.
You could have.
I think that
mad.
you pushed him into center stage was the problem.
Yeah,
There was no need for it.
They lied. They said this is gonna be fucking all Boba all the time. And honestly, this podcast has had a higher percentage of attention being paid to Boba than that show did because they went
Boba
all
per
over.
capita.
Yeah, Boba per person percentage. Yeah. So if you had said this was Mando season 3 ... Book of Boba Fett, then it would have said to us, the viewer, look, it's going to be Boba-centric, but it still Din's show and what's going on with Din, and you could have spread out little bits and pieces more
I would have
what
fucking
happened in those
hated
2
that
episodes. All right, Charlie just hates every one of my
No,
jokes,
no,
but
I
that's
just
cool.
mean like Mandalorian season 3. I want to be about Mando.
Well,
Like I want him for 7 out of 7 episodes.
If they clarified that it was the Book of Boba Fett, Mandalorian Book of Boba Fett, because I got news for you, Boba Fett is still a Mandalorian. He's a foundling. Well, he's a photocopy of a foundling, but Mandalorian still. So it would have been still true. You still have gotten the exact amount of Din that you were fucking fiending for, and Grogu, and fucking everybody else carted over. Literally everyone who, except for Apollo Creed, everyone who was something in the Mando series showed up in this series. I think that would have been a very easy fix, at least for the people who were like fucking ready for a hot dose of Boba. Because look, Justin, I agree with Justin. We got the best version of post Sarlacc Boba in the Mando series, not in his own series. So I think that would have been a fix. But go ahead, Charlie.
I would have called it Tatooine Tales.
Awful. I hate that.
But it ties back to, it's a great Star Wars show, but it's not a good Boba Fett show. They just didn't do my man justice.
Yo, let me tell you this. So the one thing that was well established by these new shows, and obviously I think it's because of the involvement of Filoni, is that it makes the computer animated shows required viewing. Fucking required viewing. Because when somebody was like, oh, we're gonna get Cad Bane, slight spoiler, Cad Bane is who fucking put that fucking thing in his donut. I was like, what? Look, I am not one of those storytellers that requires or personally lives on flashbacks. But how is that not a fucking flashback? Come on, man.
And he had the plate.
He knows
he
that he's
got hit in the dome too.
He's got to step out into the fucking street and face up. Like, just one quick, like, oh, fuck this guy. It's just a quick nanosecond, like, you see Boba's helmet, bing, and just like one shot off the kisser. Oh, that would have made all the difference in the world, I think.
I agree.
But whatever.
I just feel there wasn't a lot of love towards Boba Fett in his own series. And if it was, Mando Season 3 or even Tales of Tatooine and they started taking him in a different direction, I'd be like, okay, this is where they're going with him. They're going to bring him down and bring Din up, and I'm here for it. They cut a guy in half in the beginning of Episode 6. I didn't see that coming, but that's some Boba Fett shit. If you ask me which one of those two bounty hunters would cut a dude in half in cold blood, I would bet my bottom dollar it's Boba and not Din. I think that's probably the most violent we've seen Din, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, let's establish who these characters are. Din, we all know, Din started off as a droid hating, don't give a fuck, gonna do what I gotta do to get that paper, son character. We know what his pivotal change was. It was that adorable 50-year-old baby. And this little motherfucker affected all of us the same way. We're like, cut these bitches in half. Oh, Grogu's adorable. So Din already had that built in. So Din is not going to be the guy that cuts a fucking dude in half, especially in front of his adopted, different strokes, Mr. Drummond action happening. He's watching. He's like, I can't cut this guy in half. But Boba will be like, fuck this motherfucker. So yeah, I completely agree with that. That was very, very clear.
Mando and Friends, love that. Absolutely love that.
I just want to hear that catchy opening theme song.
Did you watch the 90s show that I sent you over, Justin?
Yeah, that's hilarious.
Dynamite. Oh my god, I want to hug whoever makes those because they are just.
This is great. I would
Chef's
prefer
kiss,
that
as
over
Charlie likes to say.
what we get.
I am excited for next time we see Boba. I'm excited for a new dynamic on Tatooine. I'm also really excited to get away from Tatooine for a bit. And I don't want to
be back on Tatooine for a long time. This is the last thing I'm going to say, and then I'll be back when we hit sponsors. I'll let Justin and Charlie wrap up. I think a big issue that we had, and we all agree, some of, if not the best episodes of the entire series, certainly some of the best series, were the Din series, the Din episodes, right? And where did most of those take place?
Elsewhere.
In fucking space. Because everything that we got on Tatooine, it was not just sandy, desert, fucking, khaki colored everything. It was always seemed like in the middle of the goddamn day. Didn't it ever turn night there? Like, are both suns always up? It's Alaska, where it's like you always date. It was so bright all the goddamn time. So moments where you're like, fuck, a little shadow, a little implied speed would have made all the difference in the world. And I will say this. I think we can all agree that Charlie's love affair with Power Rangers aside, the mod-heavy episodes were fucking trash. And they tended to be the early episodes. So I'm going to say something which is, I know, going to come back to haunt me at some point in my life. I'm going to blame one person specifically. And it's not that goddamn liar, George Lucas. I blame Robert Rodriguez. His episodes, and I love Robert Rodriguez. He has done a lot that I'm really, really very fond of. He didn't do a great job with his episodes. I didn't like it. The one big insult was not just that the mods existed or that their candy-colored speeders were like fucking brand new off of the rack, like off of FAO Schwartz, but they seem slow as fuck. And for whatever reason, those episodes were the Robert Rodriguez episodes. To me, they were the worst ones. Fucking Opie Taylor's daughters were the best. Robert Rodriguez's were the worst. I blame him.
I don't love blaming a guy with access to a guitar case full of guns. So I will let you do you. Before I kick to you, Justin, I will say the one thing, because I feel like it's pretty clear at this point. I probably like the series the most out of the three of us. Not to say that you guys are totally spitting in its face. You know what I found the most goddamn annoying is like you establish the fucking the rebels who have now taken over the galaxy, and all they have time for is to break Mando's balls about speeding in space, but don't the fuck show up to a Rancor tearing up a town, Rancor v Spider Robots?
Yo, dude,
no one called the Popo?
You didn't see the bumper stickers on all those speeders? They're like, in Tatooine, we don't dial 911.
Just
pictures of lightsabers and shit.
It just felt like, and I like that you got to see the actor behind Luke's face. I like the other actor who we saw from Mando season 2. I like the idea of the New Republic being relegated to bullshit space cops. I think it's an interesting concept. Don't just pop it fucking in again as like we got X-Wings. We don't speed, and then Mando being like, eat a ball, whoosh. That was fucking awesome. My whole point is, I was fully expecting, I was expecting more X-Wing action. Also,
space.
Just for one more bit of bitching, that was the worst Grogu entrance he's had yet. When he just like
the ship,
R2 just drops him off. Just imagine real quick. Imagine you're having this big fucking space fight. The Rancor fights one of the spider robots. The other spider robot's about to fuck up everybody. And all of a sudden an X-Wing comes flying in, and it's Luke's X-Wing, and it's carrying fucking Grogu. Just pew, 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 pew. Come the fuck on. If you're going to play with toys, let's fucking play with toys.
That's fair.
That's where the show, like, genuinely left me, like, wanting more. Because even when Mando at the end with the Darksaber finally being like, I'm gonna fuck some shit up with this heavy ass nonsense, it did feel, for whatever reason, the entire series to me, a brutal cutting someone in half moment notwithstanding, it felt like everything was toned down to 8. Everything could have used 2 more notches of whatever. The sad should have been sadder. The interesting, though, the weird should have been fucking weirder, and the action certainly needed just like a little bit of.
You didn't like the rabbit droid hiding in the hole. The droid. The droid.
That
game,
is so prequel series to me that it made me like, I get what they're going for.
I'm sorry, the droid game was strong in this show. That you can't take away from.
The one that turned himself off.
Well, that's because you're like, if I could just power down for like 2-3 hours. Justin, we never really talked about this in real life. Are you much of a droid guy?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say they're my favorites, but I have no beef with them.
All right, so
I thought you were going to say, like, I own a bunch.
You would serve their kind. You're like, yeah, it's fine.
I would serve their kind in my bar.
Oil.
Yeah.
All right, that's fair.
Then get a little blue drink.
What, like we had mentioned at some point in the conversation that the voice actors always seem to get love at one point or another, which I think is so. We'll see you, Joker. Thanks for stopping by, brother. They always seem to get love at one point or another, which is pretty dope. And we very recently lost Jeremy Bulloch, who we know as the original guy under the helmet for Boba Fett. He died in like 2020. I guess recent. It was recent.
Last year or so.
I have his autograph. I met him.
Really? That's fucking awesome. Hang on to that.
That's very cool.
I didn't realize that they gave him FaceTime also, specifically just like they're not gonna fucking know. He was like an actor also.
Oh,
So
shit.
do you guys remember the escape from Cloud City? Where like fucking Leia's like, Luke, over here, motherfucker, and I'm finally wearing a bra. Like the one Imperial officer who's like, the fuck over here, bitch. That's Jerry Bullock, which is
that's awesome.
Yeah.
which is like kind of sort of in character. And then in the recent the sequel trilogy, he's obviously was an older man at that point. He's piloting one of the big transports. And he's like, he says some shit over his shoulder, but you get like a very, very clear shot of him, which I thought was awesome. I thought
That
was
is
awesome.
fucking rad. That is really
Also,
rad.
also as well as the cameo from the training remote, which was just automatic
was very
nostalgia
cool.
member berries for me. I was like, ooh. I'll ask you this, Justin. Did you think, having loved the Mandalorian also, what did you think Grogu was gonna do when he was put to the choice?
I mean, I had a feeling he would end up back with Mando.
Okay.
Most of my reasons, I guess, really aren't story or character based. It's more like Disney and popularity and profits and
He's
everything
like,
else. I mean,
I figure the quarterly profits are down. I can see him probably.
Yeah.
And then if he takes the chest guard, that's a purchasable after the fact, and they can put him on a figure they already have. Yeah, he's gonna go with Mando. I like your style.
I agree. I think that, unless they were coming out with a Luke Skywalker series where he spent his time training, those Jedi, Grogu there, and even if, Adam Driver comes in and, that's how that series ends, like that would be awesome. But I just don't think they're going to go that route. So I had pretty much no doubt he was going to end up back with Mando. And I think that a lot of Mando's popularity originally was due to Grogu. And I think they might be a little scared to take that step and have him without. I mean, the first 2 episodes that we saw, we only caught him at the end, were fantastic episodes. Like Mando Standalone was phenomenal. Definitely no doubt about it. I could watch those all day. So I don't know. Maybe they were testing it to see the feedback from the people. How's Mando without Baby Yoda?
You need Mando, character like that, to be running at 110%. Like you need the type of episodes that we got where Grogu wasn't involved.
Mm-hmm.
Like you would need every fucking episode to be like that, which is a haul. That's a heavy weight to carry. So I thought so too. The second that I saw her hollow out the droid pod, I was like,
yeah,
that is a perfect little Grogu size receptacle. So that's where my mind went. I'm like, he's gonna take the fucking chainmail and he's gonna be in the little pop-up. It looks like you could play Space Boggle in that little thing. Like you press down on it, little Grogu's. I'm like, Charlie, what did you think?
For whatever reason, I read that scene wrong, I guess. That scene read to me for
Charlie
a few
was like the
different
little
reasons.
girl in the taco commercials. He's like, why can't we have both?
I legitimately thought Luke was leading Grogu to the answer they all knew was coming. I thought that was like, you have to make a choice. And it felt very much to me, and I don't know if it was CG Luke doing the work for me. It felt to me Luke all but kicking him out. Luke just being like, what do you really want? Do you want this connection? And I think to a certain extent, the scene between Din, the earlier scene between Din, where it's explained to him, like, yeah, you can go see him and it's going to do him more harm than good. That story getting relayed to Luke would be even another reason where Luke shouldn't be so confident in this idea of no attachments. I mean, he's going to train his sister. That's an attachment. So I read that scene very much like Luke being like, stay if you want. But yeah, it felt to me very much like Luke leading him to that decision as much as Luke making sure the kid did what he wanted to do.
He packed up all his laundry, but Grogu only has the one shirt, so like the suitcase is like basically nothing. I had read someplace that like he picked, and it could still very well be. So if it ends up being a spoiler after the fact, I apologize. It could be Well, let's play it out logically. Grogu says, "Fuck your flashlight. I want the shirt that fucking stuff bounces off of. That sounds great. I've seen some shit in my 50 years." Which, by the way, an aside, just finished up my show where I have a line in it. I've lived nearly 50 years. My mind instantly went to, which makes me almost as old as Grogu. 50 years old is old as fuck. Yeah, Charlie with the custom gear. I appreciate that. But yeah, Charlie, I certainly do agree. There were those certain moments that did still hit me, even though for me it was, again, a B, because just Star Wars, they already start with a foot up.
Does Star Wars start at a D?
Yeah. I watched the
Like,
fucking Droids cartoon in the 80s. I ate the Droids cereal, which was so gross. You would have done better to eat the box. I'm like, Mommy, I want this one. And Mom was like, that shit costs $8. Are you kidding me? And I insisted on the Droid cereal. That was terrible. Jennifer Beals dying, I hated that.
Oh, yeah.
I hated that.
Well, that's
She's
just
a maniac.
because I think she survived. She had that bucket.
I don't know, dude. I was like, they walked in and one of her head tails was over here. One of her head tails.
No,
was over
she's
there.
just gonna have a mod head tail now.
Can you imagine? Like she just has a
I mean,
stumpy.
if anyone survived that, I hope it's Max Rebo. That's a shame.
He wasn't there.
That is a shame.
He
was
wasn't
not
in the
there.
scene.
He wasn't
I
in the scene.
rewatched it.
Thought they showed him
Homeboy's
right
off on
beforehand.
Tuesdays. Oh, he lives to play
That's
again.
great.
And also,
I'm thinking
if
the Gamorreans,
anybody
Max, like
is gonna be able to dip out of a bad situation quick, it's gonna be the elephant dude who's playing the piano with his feet. He'd be like, "Bye," and just fucking right out the door. Let me ask you this question, and then again, I'll wrap it up with you guys. I could talk about this stuff all night. Did either one of you catch the implication? And I realize that it's Disney.
Uh-oh.
Did either one of you guys feel like, would you like your helmet cleaned, as very much a euphemism for like, want to go smash now? And one of these, you want to go to the champagne room, big boy? Was that just my imagination? Is
That was
where I
just
am
your
in my
wishful
social life?
thinking, you D-Gen. It very clearly was, do you want a bribe? Like, they fill up that, they say yes, and no one tries to blow Boba. They fill his helmet with money.
I don't know.
You had a whole different viewing
experience. They could fill the helmet
experience.
up with something else. I'm saying a
No.
full helmet is full helmet. Justin, am I crazy? Did
I
you
found
get
it
that feeling like-
suspicious, but I'll admit I wasn't thinking that way. I was
that
thinking
species is known.
I was thinking installing a tracking device or something like that. I didn't like immediately jump
God.
to like sexual favors.
This makes me very clearly Team Jabba. Not at all happy about that. Oof.
John thinks there's already 4 trilogies. He's like This Ain't Star Wars trilogy. This ain't A New Hope. This ain't Empire Strikes Back.
Kevin Smith made a whole movie about the making of it, dude. You need to get rid of it. Did anybody catch the little Rodan girl scene with Mando as like the fucking clear callback to Superman the movie, where the little girl is like on the train? Did you guys catch that?
Oh yeah, with Mando, yeah.
Right.
No, I didn't pick up on
You
it.
didn't catch it? So
That's
there
a Superman
is
thing, though.
the Chris Reeve Superman movie, like the first one, Superman the movie, the movie, where he is straight hauling balls, running home, and he's like in essence racing against the train.
Well, because he's faster than a locomotive.
And how? And he fucking like he jumps across the train just in the nick of time. But there's a little girl, and some people have inferred like that little girl.
It's Lois, right?
Lane. I've heard it that it wasn't. It's irrelevant almost. But like she sticks her head into the window to watch him go by, and the scene with the little Rodan girl is beat for beat exactly that, which is really why I love what's her face, that redheaded chick, when she's not in Jurassic World. That was pretty dynamite. Also, did you guys catch the most famous ice cream maker in the entire galaxy? Not
Well,
once,
blew
but
up your
twice?
girlfriend.
Huh?
That's where the explosive were that blew up your girlfriend.
I mean, I was so concerned about like, please don't let anything happen to the Sex Palace. That I didn't even realize at first that it was the ice cream maker that really fucking did it.
You know, it just occurred to me that you were upset about the Sex Palace exploding because you thought every time they asked to clean your helmet, they were trying to fucking dirty up your helmet.
I'd be
I just
dropping
with
my
that
helmet
simple
outside in the
mess.
sand on purpose.
Oh no, I'm so clumsy. Be like, John, you've been here 3 times this hour.
What else? I don't know, guy. I mean, what else before we'll go to sponsors before we wrap it up? But was there anything else specifically that stuck out about the show? Whether it was moments, whether it was something that didn't happen, whether it was something that did happen that surprised you, or some place that you think the show was leading us? Because clearly, Disney shows have become bridge shows. They're doing it in Marvel. Like, I think that's the way, if fucking Din asks, is using the TV shows as a bridge to something else. So clearly this story isn't necessary to lead into the Obi-Wan show. So I don't know. You know, final thoughts, I guess. Justin, we'll start with you, brother.
Yeah, I mean, I was a little disappointed. Well, I'll start by saying I was excited to see the Hutts come into play. You know, you don't really get to see much of the Hutts besides a little bit.
They
of
might be
Phantom Menace
smashing
and
too.
some side
I
stories.
also got that
Some weird
clean
shit
your
going on
helmet
there.
vibe from them. So I was like, ugh, that is the grossest slug porn I've ever thought about.
no, those things are gnarly.
Clean
I
your
did
helmet.
think about it.
But it was a shame for them to come. You kind of thought they were going to be like a big villain in the story, or at least a big obstacle to overcome. And they come back and they're like, "All right, actually, we're not going to do any of that. We're just going to bounce. Here's Danny Trejo. You can keep him too, and we'll catch you in a future show." I was kind of sad to see that because Boba Fett, he has some ties to the Hutts. He works for them a lot. He's the Hutts' top guy. That's been referenced before. So to see some Jabba, family members come in here, you kind of thought it was going to be something.
And
ended up just being
Tatooine
absolutely
sits
nothing.
firmly in Hutt space. So even like his game plan, I just want the sand planet. Yeah, but your sand planet fucking spins inside of Hutt space, which is a huge. That's like taking over one restaurant on fucking the Gambino family's fucking network. You're like, okay, yeah, you have this one restaurant, but you're on our block, so there's still going to be some issues. I'm with you.
Yeah.
That escaped me. That was a real issue for me too.
It was kind of a bummer. Even seeing more stuff with the Hutts would have been cool. Let's see like a Hutt planet. Let's see where the Hutts hang out. A little bit of that would have been cool. But we did get Danny Trejo out of it, so I'm not upset. But again, it was a little sad to just see them kind of come and go, almost in like a disrespectful fashion. They showed up and they're talking about, we have to get permission to kill the Hutts. How are we going to handle the Hutts? And they show up and they're like, actually, our Uber's here. We're just going to bounce. And speaking of Ubers, kind of like what Charlie said, typical Mando fashion, though. Grogu, the most like wanted being in the universe, constantly left in the care of strangers. So Luke just Ubers him to Tatooine, like, go ahead, figure that out. Any chance Mando gets, he's like, hey, watch this kid. And he comes back 2 episodes later. It's insane. I mean, he leaves him with the frog people, at the start of season 2. Mando's constantly handing off Grogu to strangers to watch while he does his Mando business. But that's just on a side note. I wanted to throw that out there.
No, that's a valid point.
The lack of slave
I was a latchkey kid, so I get it.
And we kept on changing the lock.
He's the most wanted being in the universe. The Empire's hunting him down, and Mando's always like, "Here, take care of this for an episode." So that I wasn't a fan of how Slave One could have come in. The entire ship is remote piloted.
I'm sorry, what
from
ship
his
is
armor.
that?
Fire spray. But that whole ship is remote controlled by his armor. He could have brought that in during that ending fight scene, cleared the streets in a second.
Fuck yes.
Anything like that. He went through that whole episode of we got to get my ship back just to
Why?
park it in the garage.
Yeah.
Okay, like, you needed it, but you never left the planet one time the whole series. So you didn't really need it right now, but again, whatever. And just overall, if you wanted to start doing right, and I actually love your idea of him going through it in the Sarlacc pit, thinking of all that stuff and like, I'm gonna die in here and I've been such a dick. I can get behind that if that's the route he wants to take. You could have started by seeking, revenge on all those who wronged him, or hunting down, the Empire's top, guys who are handing out the hit jobs and things like that. Even going after, Bosk and IG and things like that. There were definitely different routes they could have taken for him to get his fill of like being a good guy. Besides, I now want to rule the place that I almost died in. basically, he's like, okay, I'm actually just gonna make sure I die here. I'm just gonna get old enough and die here because I almost died here. It doesn't really make sense for me for Boba Fett. A lot of things, boxes were left unchecked. Visually and for character development. And like I said, it's my biggest point. I'll switch it off after this. If they hadn't given everybody what we wanted for Boba Fett in Mando Season 2, then I would have given the show a higher score because if that's the route you wanted to take Boba Fett, I'm all for it. I'm here. I'll watch. But don't give me exactly what I want.
They teased your desires and then said, no, we're not going to do that, though.
The trailer was great. Bought a ticket to the show. Nothing like they showed me on the commercial. I got duped. They gave me actual Boba Fett for 4 episodes, and they're like, now here's a whole show. But it's going to be whack as shit. So in my opinion, great Star Wars show, great Star Wars story, bad Boba Fett show, bad Boba Fett story. I love the train in episode 2. I love that whole thing.
That was dynamite.
That was beautifully done. It looked amazing. It felt amazing.
Did not that give you like a Han Solo vibes?
I thought we were getting Han Solo at some point, and I really thought
at least Crimson Dawn was going to show up.
I thought Crimson Dawn 100% was going to show up. There were so many different things where it's like almost their logo hidden somewhere, and you're like, oh, this is coming. Even if, like, when Luke shows up, I thought Luke, besides, sending him in an Uber, I thought Luke was going to come and drop off Grogu. Boba was going to be like, bruh, like, remember on that sand barge a little while back? Like, you said something to that guy, he elbowed me, I ended up down there. Yeah. Like, there's kind of some beef here.
You really ruined my day that day, bro. Like, maybe,
And if you want to be a good guy, start by forgiving Luke. Like, I get that. But, a little underwhelming and kind of
can you imagine, like, a slow burn Luke Boba handshake after all that beef? Because, like, the Jedi way is not to hold grudges. And Boba, if you really want to show me growth, put that gauntlet out.
I mean, listen, I could go on forever about it, but I think you guys touched some solid points. The modders, I don't really think brought much to the table. I mean, you didn't have to go that deep into them, especially for like a brand new concept, in Star Wars.
Terrible. And to sacrifice my Gamorreans for these
unnecessary, like everybody else found their way back to again the one tiny piece of cover that everyone's hiding behind from a full-scale invasion. They're all behind one piece of cover. Everyone found their way back there except for the Gamorreans, and it's just an unnecessary death.
Ripping it up like a fucking, I don't know, like
never got the chance to get their helmets clean.
Fucking WrestleMania.
It's a shame.
Awful, just awful. I will say this: there was an appearance that I was surprisingly juiced for, and it wasn't Jennifer Beals.
Was it Mace Windu?
Was not
because I was hoping episode 1 they're gonna show Mace Windu and the whole thing is him tracking down Mace. Because in the Clone Wars, Boba as a kid is going hard trying to get Mace Windu. So I was thrilled to see
How
that.
dare you easily kill my shit dad?
He swore up and down. No, it was none other, and we got R2D2, and we got the ant droids, which were like surprisingly cooler than I would have thought. I'm like, oh shit.
Agreed.
Them building the Jedi Temple, I'm like, that was pretty cool.
That is pretty cool.
They showed like a cool side to something that I was very much not a fan of. But I'm like, oh, this is kind of neat. No, fucking R5D4. Red, him or herself, the red and white striped astromech droid. Now, I don't know how deep you guys go into the lore. I know Charlie, when Charlie finds something he likes, he gets into it on the fucking on the quark level. He's like, did you know? Fuck, man, like you just learned about this today. No, I didn't know it, but I will do Charlie that service. So R5, as we all know, was originally the one picked to come off of the Jawa's sandcrawler to go back to Skywalker Moisture Farm, and conveniently, R5 had like a little malfunction, and Luke's like, yeah, he's sometimes my bad motivator. Yeah, fucking Luke, you whiny bitch. So then he's like, no, you fucking with me, Jawa, you furry bastard. That fact again, don't need. Furry Jawas are just. Can you imagine what they must smell like under the
Changes
robe?
the whole game for Jawa.
Ugh, so anyway, R5
Yeah, unless they want to clean John's helmet. That's fucking open season.
That's fine. That's fine because I don't have to smell them. They just gotta smell my helmet. So, conveniently, R5 fucking blows a motivator as he's rolling up. In the after of it all, because sorry, George, some of the best stuff has come after the fact, making sense out of your hubbubs. In that like astromech droid beep bop speak, R2 is like, yo, Red, I have to fucking go with the gold guy. I have a very important message I need to get across. You gotta let me go. Like, do what you gotta do. Blow a motivator, do something so I go out. I'll take care of you on the backside, so to speak. Fucking R5 droid is a goddamn hero. We always hear about C-3PO.
The
we
unsung
always
hero.
hear about R2. R5 did the most noble thing any character can do in any epic saga like this type. It's fucking, he jumped on the grenade. He did some Captain America shit. He said, you know what, R2, do what you gotta do, bro. You got that message, you got that no bra wearing bitch, titties flopping around in space. Go get him. And he fucking blows his motivator. And the fact that he ends up, obviously he was very active in the Republic era. The fact that he ends up in the service of, what's his name, Pelimato. He's the one that projects the map of Tatooine in order to help Din. Like, I love the focus that now that Red is giving, because better late than never, man. This little rolling trash can fucking did what he had to do. The fact that he's getting some glory now, I loved that aspect in particular.
Agreed. He's in Mando too, actually. If you didn't catch him,
I fucking absolutely did.
Yeah.
He's a
that
trash
full
can
circle
with a lampshade head, and he's just a do what you gotta do cat. I love it.
I just love that blowing a motivator is like the robot equivalent of shitting your pants. I didn't realize they could do that.
Yeah. That's like, it's like Breaking Bad. You're like, just get naked, walk out into the fucking desert. Nobody's gonna ask any questions. They're just gonna go about their business. Charlie, final thoughts, man.
My final thoughts is I think it collapsed under the weight of its own possibilities. I certainly think the more you love Boba Fett, probably the worse the series got.
You're probably right. I bet that
I mean, again, it's for me. You guys haven't said anything I've disagreed with. It just weighed less to me.
Very smart and handsome.
I will say this: I am excited to see what happens next, because if nothing else, Filoni and company have proven to me time and time again, if you didn't love what they did at the first bat, they're gonna come back in that next plate appearance, and they're gonna fucking rock it out of the park for you. So I'm excited. I'm excited to see what they learned from this. This is the first thing that they've done that hasn't been universally loved. And I think this might be an iron sharpens iron situation where even Rob Rodriguez, who John thought let us down a bit, I think even if he comes back, I think he's going to come back fucking full Rodriguez. And I will say that
don't put any sand around him.
Ultimately, this show, I think it did lack a little bit of the fucking massive nards that have accompanied a lot of the rest that they've done. You know, Mandalorian season 1 and 2 is a show with giant balls, and I could have used a little bit more fucking. Just go for it. If you're gonna have the fucking dumb mods, make sure I love them at the end. And they didn't.
Don't
so
have
it's
him wearing
like
ties.
Learn from or even things that look vaguely like ties.
Yes.
With that being said, John, do you want to pay some bills?
Yeah, and look, when you're talking about Favreau, when you're talking about Filoni, Lord knows when you're talking about Disney and Lucas, you got to pay the bills. And there's only one way that we're able to do that. First of all, you got to know where we are dropping. It's with Sergeant Finesse. Find him right here gaming on both Twitch and Facebook. Multiple streams every day. Outstanding video game content, supported games, co-streams, giveaways, contests. Don't be a sucker. Check him out today. If you need to pick me up, Follow the white rabbit like Neo do over to sneakenergy.com. Use code SGT at checkout. Look for some fresh new gear. Ooh, looking to make that Kessel run, are you? Go over to geeksunleashed.com. Use code SARGE at checkout there. When the Sarge is on deck, you salute. GG, son.
And when you're busy not telling all your friends about US Comics Cast, you're leaving comments, you're hitting like, you're sharing it. If you watch it on YouTube, you're going to watch it on Facebook. If you watch it on Facebook, you're going to watch it on Twitch. If you watch it on Twitch, you're going to download it next Wednesday in its audio form, and you're going to make sure that we get tons and tons of the monies so that we, too, can be involved with the Star Wars universe. But you're going to need some sweet, sweet tunage to go along with it. And one of my absolute favorite bands, you heard them at the beginning of the show. You're going to hear them in just a minute or so. But that, of course, is Bad Mary. You can find them across all social media at Bad Mary Band. You can support them financially via patreon.com/Bad Mary. And my favorite thing about them is if you need to listen to a ton of Bad Mary, and you know you do, you can hear them on every single music streaming service. Their entire discography, including their singles, all available right now across all those beautiful platforms. Justin, you're a delight. John, you're one of the greatest to ever do it. Sometimes they call me a hybrid panda. But John, what do you say? We go ahead and hop in your Millennium Falcon and take this boy all the way home. What do you say?
Look, there's only one thing you gotta do. First and foremost, Justin's long, luscious locks are making me very much miss my long hair. But once you have that instant regret and you realize you cut your shit too quick, then you gotta turn the power on. You gotta turn the volume whoop, and you gotta tune Bad Mary and open up the window wide and scream out into the night sky, "Save me, Space Girl." We out.
Cannot hurt me, but something inside me, something you can't see. You take what you want, program me for anything. I don't have a choice. My coding makes me pacifist. I robot. I'll do what you tell me, don't have a choice. Something inside me, I'm gonna find my voice. I'll do what you want, don't let me be alone tonight. I don't have a choice, what my circuit's feeling now. I robot. You do not feel anything for me. You did not think that I'd really be. All I really want is to be with you. All I really want is to dream of you. But I don't dream, but I don't dream, but I don't dream, but I don't. I cannot leave you, I'll never change. Something inside me, it's all rearranged. You can't know what I want, I cannot tell you of my love. I don't have a choice, and I will watch you die. I